we find the defendant guilty of manslaughter while armed with a firearm as charged in the information. As to count 2, we found a defendant guilty of attempted first-degree murder as charged in the information. If you find a defendant guilty of attempted first-degree murder, you must next answer the following questions. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant actually possessed a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant actually discharged a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant...
The judge there handing down the guilty verdict in the Nouman Raja trial just as it was coming down. We're joined now by well-known defense attorney here in town, Patrick McKamey. And Patrick, you also worked with the state attorney's office for a number of years, so you really have perspective on both sides of this. What stands out to you the most about this case and this verdict?
Well, I think as far as the case goes, what stands out the most is the fact that it's highly unusual to have a recording of an actual shooting, which is what we had in this case, for the jury to consider. And that makes it unusual because it's captured in real time. Often in these types of cases where there's a shooting, it's really the officer's account and nothing more. And it's very difficult to dispute the manner in which the officer describes the shooting unless there's a body cam. So that's what stands out as making it very unique. And the other thing that makes it stands out is the public perception, I think, that a lot of shootings are unjustified throughout the country. And I think there's a perception that this man was shot in cold blood and that the officer needed to be held accountable, and clearly he was.
It certainly didn't help Raj's case that what he said happened during the shooting wasn't showing up in the recording. He said he identified himself and there was nothing in the audio recording. You couldn't hear him identifying himself. Correct.
I think that was probably the most damning piece of evidence. The fact that the audio recording clearly showed he didn't identify himself, that the initial encounter did not occur in the manner in which he described it. So clearly the jury felt he lied and that he was completely unjustified in shooting himself, that he never represented himself as an officer as he should have done in the initial encounter. So I think it was just a flat-out rejection of his account during the walkthrough as he described the shooting and how it unfolded. I think the jury felt he was absolutely lying.
They deliberated for 4 hours yesterday, but then only 45 minutes this morning. What can you read from the fact that they came to a verdict so quickly?
That they didn't base their testimony on the expert testimony. They based it on what Raja said and the recording of the actual shooting itself. And I think they relatively had their minds made up when they went back and started deliberating, because it is a short verdict. They could have taken, in murder cases, sometimes you'll get the jurors out for 2, 3, 4, 5 days to deliberate before they can actually reach a verdict, and they go through each piece of evidence. In this case, I think it was his own words that doomed him, coupled with the phone recording.
Patrick McKamey, thank you for that insight. We appreciate it. Our coverage of this, high-profile trial, this verdict just coming down today, does not stop here. On CBS 12, we've posted the full interviews with Corey Jones' father and brother, along with prosecutors and defense attorneys. We are hearing from all of them. You need to check it out right now on CBS12.com.